Hey, good morning, guys. It's Monday, August 8th, 2022. I'm going to jump right into the pre-market here. Hope everybody had a great weekend. Um, as usual, on Mondays, what I like to do is go back and do a swath of all of the higher time frames. So, the annual, you can see we're getting a pretty good recovery, obviously, pushing right back up to about 50% of last year's price action. Nothing really else to mention from such a zoomed out chart. But back here on the down on the 3 month here, remember, we've been talking probably ever since this candle first opened about there being this potential bullish divergence from the lows. And we saw it down here on the monthly chart, remember? And then if I go down here to the weekly, we saw it on the weekly chart down off of the lows. That has really played out here. We've got a really good follow through. Remember, just a little bit before this signal, back on June 17th, we got a similar signal on May 20th, and the bears kind of swatted it back down. So there was a good bullish push from that low, and then the bears jumped right back in and swatted it even lower. And now we're on this new bull run ever since basically the lows of mid-June. So right now, as the market continues to push higher, if I go back up to my quarterly chart, remember there's just not enough resolution to see what's going on right now off of these highs. So this 3 month, which will close at the end of this month, still looking really bullish. Let's go down to the monthly. Same thing on the monthly. I really don't have enough resolution off of the high of the August candle, obviously, since it just formed. Just not enough information there from a divergence perspective to get anything out of this chart outside of, again, that bullish signal that we got back mid-June. So right now, all the higher time frames are giving us clues that we should continue to push right now. When we get down to the weekly, which is kind of the bottom end of that higher time frame range, we do have what could be a bearish divergence from the highs. Now that we get a little bit more resolution and granularity on the weekly chart, we do have that potential bearish signal that I've been mentioning now for a little while, probably since the last week or two of July. We've been watching this as it pushed. And remember, the caveat with this type of setup right now is we can push all the way to this high we made back at the end of May going into the beginning of June. And if we don't really break through that high, which happens to be 42.0475, then we will still have that bearish divergence. But once price gets through the high of, I think it was the last day of May, once we get through the high of May, that signal will no longer be there. So just be aware of that. And then here's the tough part of what's going on here. If we go back to the last major high before this one, all the way back to, let's just say at the high of April, we still will be able to make the argument for bearish divergences if this RVI continues to kind of trek up into the bullish range on the RVI. So it just is what it is. There will be an argument all the way up until we get to this high. And then once we break through, you might even be able to get an argument from that high, which means we've still got a whole lot of room up here, which tells me that the weekly chart is not a chart we want to be relying on to find that top, that high. We're going to have to kind of rely on the shorter time frames to see where everything starts to line up and then see if we'll get the move from there. So weekly does, again, agree with the bullish signal back from the beginning of the first few weeks of June. And we've already gotten now, I believe 36.39 was the major low. So let's just say 36.40. We've pushed now over 400, 500 points. So how far are they going to get this sucker? That's anyone's guess. Let's go down to the daily now and start looking into what we're going to want to do here this morning. So remember back to last week, we said going into Friday that we did have a bearish divergence argument off of Thursday's high of last week. So going into Friday of last week, we did have some decent bearish signals from the highs. I believe we also had a 4-hour, we also had the hourly, beautiful 3 time frame, multiple time frame bearish signal. And there was somewhat of a correction there on Friday, though they did recover and come all the way back up. So, and then from Friday's low, although we are technically up 0.1% on RVI, we're essentially making a double bottom here on RVI, right? But the RVI, the price has pushed to a higher low. So we do have a bullish divergence from Friday's low on the daily chart. And you can see that coming into Sunday's Globex, coming into Monday morning here, the market is attempting to break out. We did break the high that we got the bearish divergence from back on Thursday of last week. But it was just a little peak so far. So remember that whole scenario we talk about. There's always a possibility they're going to peak above a bearish signal and then fail from there, or vice versa if it was on the bottom end, a peak below and then a bounce. So there's always a possibility that could happen here. But we do have a nice daily bullish divergence from last Friday that would give us an expectation for an attempt to break out here and get through that high of Thursday of last week. So just be aware of that daily bullish signal there. Obviously, if you're just trying to interpret what we're seeing, if the market can hold the low of Friday, that bullish divergence should stay in play for the push. But if we come down and we can't appreciably hold that level, it's obviously a clue to start targeting all these levels down below us. I'm going to go down to my 4-hour chart now and just see if we have agreement with that daily signal. And sure enough, here's Thursday of last week. Nice, beautiful. Remember, this was that beautiful bearish reversal pattern off of the high of Thursday, which I guess happened somewhere around 6:30 to 7 a.m. in the morning Pacific time. And you can see it did pull back going into the end of the day. And then on Friday, they tried to come back and then failed and pushed lower, which was that expectation for lower. This morning now, 4-hour bullish signal from Friday's low, agreeing with our daily bullish signal. So this push right now is all in the cards. It should have been a pretty good expectation once we got the close on Friday. So coming into Sunday's Globex, coming into Monday morning, this attempt right now to come push higher is an expectation based off those signals. Now you can see what this 4-hour candle looks like right now. Maybe I could zoom in a little bit more. We have come up and broken the high of Thursday where we got a huge smatter of bearish signals on multiple time frames, but it was just a peak so far. So we pushed up 2 or 3 points above the high of Thursday, and we've now pulled all the way back. And that 4-hour candle, to me, looks like a very bearish omen. But that's what we're seeing right now, and don't really see any other clear signals. There's the bullish signal from Friday's low. You can see that the divergence analyst is kind of indicating that there's actually a divergence going on right now from the high of maybe Wednesday going into Thursday there. But outside of that, nothing too concrete right now. So let's go to the 60-minute. 60-minute also had that really nice bullish divergence from Friday's low. And as they pushed, we did get another nice bullish divergence just a few hours into Sunday's Globex session. And now we got through the bearish signal in the overnight, and we pushed just a little bit higher. And kind of hard to say here. I guess you could come all the way back to this high and make the argument that we pushed much lower on RVI. Prices pushed a pretty decent little rip higher. So maybe some spacious arguments, and I would say even on the 4-hour, some spacious arguments as well. So we do have some indications that there's some weakness going on right now up at the highs that we're making. However, we do have a really strong bullish signal from Friday's low. So here's the question. with the nice multiple time frame bullish signal that includes our daily, which is a very strong time frame to rely on as we're intraday trading here. The question is, how far is that multiple time frame signal going to get us? And like I said, right now it has pushed 4100 all the way to about 4177 for just about, let's just say, a 65 to 75 point bounce. That might be all that multiple time frame signal yields. That's just how it is. Sometimes, even though you could have every time frame from the yearly all the way down, even everything lining up, sometimes there's just not enough follow through in that direction. So that might be all that signal gets. But we can't ignore that it's there. So we'll see. And like I said, from the high of the overnight session here, there actually are some spacious arguments on the 60-minute and 4-hour for a bearish signal. And remember, this could be one of those little peak above, a major signal, and a failure. So this morning, it's maybe not as conclusive as some mornings when we have a better feeling for what the direction might be. So we're just going to probably have to take it as it comes here. So if this starts to fail from the high we made in the overnight session, and the market opens and we have some really weak market internals and stuff, might be our clue to go ahead and start targeting these levels down below. If the market does, for whatever reason, just continue to rip, then we're going to be looking for that major high, 42.0475, that I mentioned earlier, which happens to be right near our major eye level here. So that is that major high going all the way back over here that we have bearish signals from. So if we do rip higher this morning, it would not be surprising to see this market go ahead and come up and test that high. We're very close now. A while back, we were a couple hundred points away. I told you I didn't really think we could do it, but we're not very far now. We made a high at 41.77. 42.0475 is just, a little less than 30 points away from that high. So you never know. I think that's probably a good target to the upside if they do break the high of the overnight session and we have some strong market internals. We can go ahead and target that area up there. Might even make sense to take profit just in front of 42.03 in case we get one of those little things where it comes up just in front of a level and then gets a major failure. So let's talk about all the levels in between here coming into the open. If the market does pull back, so if we follow through with the 4-hour hourly signal from the highs, the bearish signals we're seeing here, I would be paying attention to our hopeful this morning, 41.4575 or 41.56, right in there. And then I would also not want to ignore this major high we made in the Globex session at 41.5075. So I'm going to draw a line across here just so we're aware on the shorter time frames that we're going to be coming back to test that major high. And we'll just make it a dotted line and just make sure it's 41.5075. And if we end up getting through that level, get through the hopeful, get through that level, we've got our major eye level, which happens to be the close of Friday. Now, if you guys remember back to Friday of last week, we went ahead and let's see if we can zoom back and I'll get the close level up there. We ended up rallying. Here's the low of the morning. We rallied all the way back up from 4100 all the way to 4150 for a 55 point push, and failed right at the close of Thursday of last week. And that was just a beautiful gap fill. And so you never know if we're going to get a nice fill all the way back to the close of Friday there. That wouldn't be a surprising situation, so be aware of that. And then from there, it's going to be down into our major and minor eye levels. So everything down below, we already have established for the last few weeks now. And then we have some of those swing highs and swing lows that we've established last week that have not changed. So everything below us, you should already know, could potentially act as support on a pullback. Outside of this new level I just put on here at 50 half, or what was it, 50.75 there, there's really nothing new to talk about as far as levels go. On the other side of things, like I said, if the bulls just rip through the high of the overnight session and we have some strong market internals, I'd really be expecting a push up to test that 0475 here, right where our major eye level is. But don't forget that we do have two minor levels in the way. And these are very important levels. In fact, if you scroll all the way back months and months, it might even be, I forget now, but I believe as the market sold off, we came right down into these levels. Let's see if I can get my Control 4 here, and came into this level, and we got, I don't remember, I think it was 84 half. It might have been both, but we got a really nice reaction right off that level, and then it came down, and then bam, came right into 84 half and bounced out. If I recall correctly, going all the way back a few times, yeah, it came right into it, bounced right out, broke through, came up right into the back end of this one. So there's a lot of structure going on right over on these areas. So even if there's a strong push, even if there's strong market internals, be aware there could be some trouble there at 84 half, right there at 92, and then it's going to be into this major high and major eye level area. If they end up getting through 0475 and 03, we've got the major retracement up above. I believe that's the 50% retracement from the all-time high all the way down to the low we made for this year, which was, I believe, 36.39. So that level, 42.21 quarter, we've been talking about it for a few weeks as well. So we've got that up there. Also, wouldn't be a surprising area to see the bulls push into and then have some trouble. Any further from there, it's just eye level after eye level, and then I believe there's like a 61.8 retracement eventually, all the way up at about 43.58. So those are the targets we have to the upside, or I should say expected areas of resistance for the bulls. And then down below us, like I said, coming back into the OPL, you never know with that sucker. We've got that swing high and then 42. Once we get through 42, remember that's where the market closed on Friday. We do have 50% of yesterday, or 50% of Friday that's there. We do have the low of Friday. Don't want to ignore those two levels, but after that, it's all our major eye levels and then some of the major swings that I have marked. So that should set us up here for this morning. If I wasn't getting some of these kind of more spacious bearish arguments on the 4-hour and the 60-minute, I'd be telling you right now I expect this market to break out to the upside. In fact, before, when I was preparing for our pre-market, and I hadn't really noticed this new setup forming at the most immediate time here, I was basically expecting to tell everybody that we were going to come up and potentially break out to the upside this morning. Now that we're getting some slight bearish clues from the overnight high, gives me just a little bit more pause here to actually give you that much confidence that we're going to break out, but that's always a possibility. So that's where we are for this morning. There's no notable news on the roster here coming into today, and honestly going into tomorrow either. But we do have CPI on Wednesday. We do have some jobless claims, PPI stuff on Thursday before the market opens. And in both cases, Wednesday and Thursday, these are pre-market news events. And outside of that, nothing else too notable for the beginning of the week here. We'll talk about the end of the week here when we get closer to that. But nothing too notable right now. And again, with this daily bullish signal, with the 4-hour bullish signal, with the hourly bullish signal from Friday's low, I did expect there to be a breakout here this morning, but we are getting just a few clues for the bears right now. So that's where we're at. Have a great morning to anyone watching out there on YouTube. We're going to see what we can do here, see what kind of signals we can get once the market opens. So have a great day.